The Housing Sites Inventory is a document that identifies properties within the city that can accommodate our required RHNA. We are required to show the number of units and demonstrate that our zoning standards can accommodate the number of units needed for each affordability category. To demonstrate we are able to meet this requirement, we are using the state's default density of 20 dwelling units per acre. State law dictates cities must maintain at all times during the housing cycle adequate sites to meet our RHNA allocation. We are not allowed to take any action that would allow or cause the sites identified in the sites inventory to be insufficient to meet our remaining RHNA for lower and moderate income housing. This is known as no net loss. If we identify a site with 10 very low, or moderate income units, and it develops with less than 10, the remaining units must be accommodated elsewhere within the city. To address this potential threat, the sites inventory staff recommends will include a buffer. We are required to take care when selecting, zoning, or rezoning sites that are part of the housing sites inventory. It is important to produce the number of units in the affordable categories we identify in the sites inventory. Reduction or downsizing sites is not permissible. For example, if a site was designated to produce 100 units and it produces less than 100 units, the difference must be found elsewhere within the city. Additionally, if the site's inventory indicates a site will produce 20 very low units and it produces less than 20, then the difference must also be found somewhere else within the city. If we find ourselves in a situation where we do not have adequate capacity in the remaining sites, we are required to identify additional adequate available sites so there is no net loss in unit capacity. We are allowed to do this concurrent with the downzoning action. It must occur within 180 days if triggered by a specific project to be compliant with state law. State law requires us to demonstrate that we are affirmatively furthering fair housing within the city. We are required as part of our housing element update to analyze history and patterns of segregation and unequal access to housing opportunities that may exist. As part of this exercise, we have to assess our enforcement and outreach capacity regarding fair housing laws. The underserved population we have identified in our community is our senior population. We have initiated outreach efforts to reach the senior population through trusted messengers and availability of public information. How many units do we need? It is unlikely a property owner will choose to develop a 100% affordable project. Therefore, we have to allow many sites with the ability to develop affordable housing so that the percentage of the affordable housing provided equals 318. Based on staff's analysis and research, to get the requisite 318 units, we have to provide for the development of at least 1,400 multifamily residential units. In our selection process, we looked for sites that could realistically develop with affordable housing. Given the fact that the law requires the city to offer property owners an alternative to developing units on site, and that private property owners are able to develop market rate and or affordable units, we have to provide enough sites that could yield 318 necessary RHNA allocation units. We have an inclusionary housing ordinance that requires property owners to provide 15% of the total proposed units as affordable or pay an in lieu fee so that those units may be constructed elsewhere. In an attempt to help generate more affordable units on site, staff is recommending an affordable housing overlay, which will be discussed later in this presentation. Where will the sites go? Where will the housing go? In cycles past, we were able to accommodate our RHNA wholly within the Agora Village specific plan area. The AVSP is comprised of approximately 83 acres, with roughly 66 of those as undeveloped. Our current allocation cannot be accommodated within the AVSP, so staff had to look outside of the AVSP for suitable sites. Finding suitable sites that meet all of the laws we are required to follow is especially challenging in Agoura Hills. We have fire hazard severity zones, oak trees, hillsides, limited available sites suitable for housing, and a good number of those are adjacent to the Ventura Highway. To meet this challenge, staff has worked diligently to develop a proposal that incorporates the core values of our community and stands a good chance of being certified by HCD. The state law as it exists today is driving development of our housing element update and driving the need for changes in policies that in the past we would not have made. Our efforts are intended to capitalize on the areas we have control over and guide or minimize the impacts in the areas where our control has been curtailed by the state.